So how does one meet this holy guardian angel? What are we doing here? Well, it's slow and it's progressive. We steadily feel the presence of that angel when you do magic, when you're invoking the angel, when you're in the temple and you're worshiping, when you're meditating. You feel that entity and you feel it coming closer. It's not like you just pray or you have a specific vision. It's a long process. It comes in time. And what happens is you acquire the knowledge of you. That's the first thing. You acquire the knowledge of the angel. You connect to it in some way. And then the next thing, you develop conversation. You have a relationship with it. You'll find a name and maybe an image of the angel, but that's not going to be its real name. That's just the glimmer that the angel gives you. And you work to see beyond the limitations of the holy guardian angel, amongst what you thought it was, to see what you really is. What it really is. And when you see what it really is, you don't got shit to say. There's nothing there for you to say. The angel will reveal its true name. The angel will give knowledge and conversation. But, you got to cross the abyss. That's the point where even the holy guardian angel and everything you think about it falls away to pass through that horrible emptiness until the light dawns and everything is regained and you see the holy guardian angel as it truly is, as you've never seen before. I mean, this is some pretty profound symbolism. We are always the virgin bride, and the angel is always the bridegroom. We're always courting the angel. We're always trying to make ourselves prepared. The angel is beyond distinction and beyond duality. If you were looking on the tree of life, the angel is above the abyss in these top three parts. The angel comes from above the abyss, Gunther writes, from the oneness of Keter at the top, through the path of Gimel, wherever that is, I can never remember. The angel is beyond our world of duality, where the divisions and unity are our way of life. Once again, we have moved from something very different. We were talking about magic to kill witches, magic to make people love you, magic to smite your enemies. Now we're talking about magic to fulfill oneself and find one's own true nature. It's become Gnostic in so many words. The process is slow. It is gradual. The kiss of the angel is vague. Remember that this is not you. It's not your higher self. It's nothing within you now. It's something wholly other. But it is also completely loving. And in the relationship, as it deepens, then one can rest under the wings of the holy angel. In many ways, you are constantly preparing. The goal is to make yourself ready for the union with the holy guardian angel and to constantly be preparing. You must repeatedly and constantly request him to enter your world and yourself. Invoke regularly, invoke often. Now, our little self is the gateway to the angel, and the high self that has no resemblance to you but is pure being, that is the angel. That's not a higher self. It is beyond limitation. Now, Gunther tells this great little story. He says, several years ago, a dear friend of mine who is an advanced initiate said something to me that I will never forget. He said, when I first began this work, I thought that God and the holy angel were not the same. Now I can't tell the difference anymore. To which Gunther says, Amen. So while Gunther argues that he is a teacher, but he says that he is a teacher and he can teach you, but the real teacher is experience, the experience of the aspirant. I mean, I would add that any person who describes themselves as realized is not by any means. The nature of to be human and to be limited is to always aspire more. We should always be aspiring. There is no end to it. Even at its supposed conclusion, you are still in the system only aspiring. Don't assume you already have a holy guardian angel. Humble yourself before the Lord. Strive to be worthy of the holy guardian angel. For those of you whose aspiration is true, who desire not to serve yourselves, but to dedicate yourself, to dedicate your life to the service of mankind, I know there is still or that there is a still small voice already whispering in your ear. Listen to that voice in the silence. Now, I know I've said a lot like you, one, we. That's just how I talk about this stuff. I am involved with some of these religious groups. Would I say this is my religion? I don't know what I would say my religion is. I pray to gods I don't believe in. I find myself secretly way more Hindu than I would like to admit. That's probably because I've spent a lot of time in India and in Hindu temples. But this stuff appeals to me. I find it quite compelling. So let's close down with the words of Gunther a little more. Gunther speaks. These are the last words kind of in this section and of the book in reality. And they knocked my socks off the first time I read it. I was writing my PhD at the time, and I was hanging out in an OTO community in Los Angeles quite a bit. But this set of words really kind of hit me, you know? And not in that way that I grew up with like, oh, I was reading the Bible and suddenly I knew I had to buy a Chevy Impala. God was speaking to me. Or I knew I had to call my sister and make nicer when I was reading about the book of Leviticus or something. These words just resonate with, and I think about them. I think it's really quite good spiritual writing. Gunther speaks. Very often now, in the twilight of my years, as I rise in the morning, I will take a brief moment to reflect on my life. And I will quietly say to myself, see where thine angel hath led thee, thinking in the past, thinking how the angel has gotten you to this point where you're at. I know that it is the holy guardian angel that guides me and directs my path. It is the angel that has taught me almost everything I know and continues to teach me every day. He's been doing this for 40 years. Take the time to be silent and listen for that still, small voice. Oh my, our world is so loud. I mean, I think this is such good advice, whether you're connecting to a holy guardian angel or not. Just take the time to listen for that still, small voice. If you live in a city, go into the country, find a quiet, secluded place. Sit down and be still. Listen for the voice of silence. It may have something important to tell you. The most important thing you ever hear may come on the wings of silence. It just might change your life. We're being called. This is like, it's a description of his experience, but it's a call to action as well. And as you hear that, you make that connection to that tiny thing, that brush of the angel's wings, the kiss on your ear. Then look about you, take stock of where you are, where you have been, and where you want to go. Then ask yourself, see where thine angel hath led thee. And he ends, his last words of the book, the angel in the abyss, I wish you Godspeed. And that's a pretty great way to end a spiritual book in general. So at the end of that, and that shit floored me a bit when I first read it, I ended up going down to the OTO Lodge in Los Angeles, and I said, so how's this different from Christianity? Really? I mean, how is it? Is this universal? Is this Gnosticism, realizing that we're stuck in a world that an evil God has created against the God who is true and beautiful and created the world, but got usurped by an evil God? I mean, is this seeing through illusion to reality? I mean, if ceremonial magicians and sorcerers and whatnot are devilry, are Satanists, well, this sure looks like a really intricate process to know and realize God. To me, even thinking back to my prior life in my youth of being a Christian, I didn't have this kind of technology to connect to God. And look at all of this that's being described here, these mechanics, the techniques, these ideas to connect to something far beyond oneself. So who's the real Satanist anyway? I mean, maybe the person who's the Satanist is the one who believes in a mighty white bearded God punishing gays to hell. That's pretty satanic to me. But if there are people who are seeking light, truth, and to know God in every moment, to know the secret, And if they are occultists, and occult means secret, it does not mean evil, then what are we really looking at here? So, what is Christianity? The devil may ask. Maybe this is more Christian than Christian. As I looked around at a whole bunch of people in heavy metal t-shirts and black fatigues in the 1990s when I first met OTO people, I thought, these morons who are obsessed with transgression and devilry. But these days, when I spend time with people who have been in the order for a long time and practicing this path, I see a search for light. I see a search for knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel, of finding our true identity. And I think that's pretty cool. All right. You've heard an awful lot from me today. We're going to do the takeaways, and you'll be all done.